Okay, I think we are online in some capacity. Cool. I'm just going to start playing around with some ideas for what to do today because, well, no one's here yet except me. So I mean, who do I have to perform for? So the goal is going to be to make some art. That's pretty vague. That's the intention, is to leave it vague for now. So I'm going to mock up some ideas in Figma first, and then I will try and write code to make something a little more substantial out of the basic ideas. But what I want to do is do something isometric. So in Figma we can make a simple little isometric box pretty easily, even though it's only like 2D. We just group that and divide it by 2. Maybe I should make that clearer, but yeah, you can get a rectangle like this. If you rotate it, then you have a 45-degree rectangle. Obviously, if you put it in a group, then you get a box around like this, and you divide the height by, divide the height 2 here, and you get this little isometric looking shape. Yeah, this is fairly good, although it is annoying positioning isometric things in vector because the gap between them always seems to be slightly wrong when you use the pixel grid in Figma. It's not going to matter because we're just mocking up right now what we might want this to look like. So, all right, let's make the sides of the boxes, I suppose. That's probably smart. That looks great. This gives it a really weird vibe actually because it's like leaning to the left. Not quite. Cool. So if we make a rectangle like this one. This time I'm just going to drag the corner to approximately where I want it to be, I think. Yeah, so if you do like this, it's very hard to get the relative angle the same, but it also doesn't really matter once again, because I'm going to be just mocking this up. So let's put that like this. Yeah. That's good. Cool, duplicate that, flip it horizontally, put another one in. Cool, now we make this one a little bit lighter, this one a little bit darker. Classic isometric box, beautiful. Cool. So I probably actually want to do this with stroke on the edges if I actually code it. I'm kind of thinking of, maybe it's best to show some inspiration imagery here to get started as well. So if we have a look at, well, I was thinking a little bit about Subscapes by Matt Delorier when I was brainstorming what to do. So we're not going to make it look like this. It's just that this is like this sort of ballpark of where we're going to be aiming. If what art block wants to load, just let me see the image. Yeah. So you see this, like basically just this. We're going to do a little like. It's like a video game, like a landscape floating in space, although I want to do it a little bit more blocky and much less flowy. I also have got this inspiration imagery open with this little like, well, not town, you know what I mean, like fantasy landscape from Poulet on Twitter. I just have this bookmarked in my inspiration list because I saw it and it's really cool. Okay, so yeah, we want to start off by just like, we're going to need a grid of these obviously, right? So let's make a bunch of these. Let's make a component in Figma so I don't take the original, put it out. Wait, take the original, put it out here. Cool. Then we'll take a bunch of these. So you see, if we do like this, right? Like then we're going to get a somewhat even landscape, although this has immediately exposed to me that the box is not actually isometrically correct. That's better. It's not perfect still, but it's better. That might get us close enough for the time being. Cool, put that back out there. Make another one of these, like that. Approximately, yeah, duplicate another one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's probably good. Then if we group that into a row of some kind, then we make another one. Cool. We have a square isometric plane. Now if that's, yeah, do it like that. Now, I'm trying to get the best ways to make this, you know, somewhat visually interesting as a thing to actually look at. So obviously some amount of height variation would be useful there. You can see the problem we're going to have here though is because I haven't got any outlines, you can't see the contrast of these against each other, so maybe I should add outlines. I'm just concerned it's going to look really bad in Figma at least, because we're going to have these double up outlines. Yeah, you see this, like, if we move these to outside, yeah, they'll be too big, but we can fix the doubling up a bit more. Then bring this one down and like this, maybe. Yeah. At this point, it's almost worth going straight to the code because I'm going to be fiddling with the visual appearance of this. I can just tell. Something like that's pretty close. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so apart from the fact that, you know, this actually looks pretty cooked, if we offset these now, you can see like we actually can read what's happening at least, so that's better. Yeah, so I'm sort of thinking like how, and this probably isn't going to be interesting enough to just do the basic concept, but just sort of a grid of these sort of rectangular prisms. They're all different heights, and maybe we even stack them on top of each other, because I think that could produce some interesting effects, right? Like you've sort of got like a city-esque kind of thing where they build up into little skyscrapers like this. And we could have different shapes potentially emerge too. So like I put this, sorry, bring to front, put this bring to front. Is it in some group? Yeah, it is. Bring to front. So yeah, you can kind of see like this is the vibe that I sort of want to try and achieve. If we go in here, I think what we're actually more likely to have this look like is closer to imagine this instead. Like, yeah, very, very like outliney. So I think that's probably enough to start messing around with. So the next decision is what technology to do this in. This is a classic problem for isometric style stuff. Like it's a little bit easier to do some of it in 3D, and it's a little bit harder to do some of it in 3D. I think so. I'm tempted. I'll have a quick look at some code to see what I think about the various approaches available to us. Let's not open that actually. Do we have item? Yeah. Cool. Where are we going? We're going to. So if we go into. I don't know which one of these was the one I worked on last. It looks like fragment is. Which one's this one? Cat source, fragment, core. What does this do? Particle, new particle, particle list. This is with closure 2D, right? So not the one I wanted. I want to try. So what was the other most recently modified one then? I swear that like it's either noir or it's dukkha, and I don't know which one it is. Let's have a look. Dukkha. This ALS. What am I doing? Yeah, show me what's in this file. So this is 3D. Okay, let's have a look at that then. Oops, fuck that up. Yeah, let's open this up. Ah, hey 3LA, thanks for stopping by, dude. Oh, you're working on tunes. Keen to hear what you come up with. Void Place is looking really cool, by the way. I know I don't actually support you on Patreon yet, but I'm sorely tempted. Cool, okay. So I can't maximize this, but let's make this a lot bigger. Streaming on an ultra wide is actually kind of like, it's kind of the worst because you have to like manually just be like, okay, I'm going to just share only a part of my screen. There's like, just going to manually position the windows. I normally use all my window snapping stuff to like do half of the screen easily, but it doesn't work properly. I've got to come up with some stream configurations, I guess. Okay, so what is this project that I have just opened? This is a template thing that I set up recently for being able to just get started with quil. So quil.info. Let's talk about quil quickly in case this is something that's like unknown. So quil is a Clojure/ClojureScript library for creating interactive drawings and animations. Yeah, so basically, if you've ever heard of any kind of creative coding stuff, you've likely heard of processing or P5.js before. These are pretty old frameworks now, and so processing was originally Java based, and P5 is a port of it to JavaScript. These have a lot of, where's the reference here? These have a lot of, there we go, cool. These have a lot of the functions you would need to do just like any kind of rendering, to be honest. They've got all sorts of shapes, colors, just like transformations. It makes it really easy to sketch things out using these kinds of APIs. So if you're ever finding yourself, even for game dev, right, like you might think, oh, you know, I want to do this thing where I draw a bunch of like parametric or like procedural shapes in Unity, but it's actually a lot more work to get yourself into a situation where you can just draw shapes in a context like Unity than it is here in P5. Like if we look at examples, yeah, for example, let's hop in here. Like we can just, you know, people have done everything in P5 for you as well. So like you got the Mandelbrot set here, right? Just can just render it, and like you just get this little like simple setup. You get a setup function and a draw function, and that's all you really need. So I'm using quil, which is a ClojureScript version of this exact same library. It's based on processing. What is ClojureScript? A little too much explanation for this stream. They are programming languages. You will see that they do not look like other programming languages. Cool. So this is ClojureScript here. It's a Lisp. If you've ever heard of Lisp, I guess you know that means there's lots of parentheses, but basically everything is written in this format of parentheses around something, where the first first entry inside this parentheses is a function, and the rest of the things are arguments to that function. So like in your traditional like hello function from like JavaScript, that would be written instead in Clojure, something like this. That's the basic change. From that, lots of other stuff unfolds, but we're just gonna get on with this. So yeah, I agree. Really, it's so much harder than it should be to just sketch an idea in a game library. Like, I think it's useful to just have a lot of different tools for prototyping ideas and building them up, because man, like just trying to draw a circle on the screen in Unity is pretty difficult unless you go straight to a shader. Like if you want to just draw a pixely circle, you're basically out of luck. It's obviously doable by rendering to a texture and putting that in a quad and putting that in the whole screen, but like, why can't I just render a circle on the screen? That's, you know, that's something Game Maker and like Godot gets this right too, where there's an easy drawing API. Okay, so we're going to start this project, which I hope is going to work. Let's find out. You know, I had sworn that I had another project like this one with a different setup of the code config. Let's look quickly. What's this one got? That's shadow. Yeah, what's in source here? I think this was the one I meant to open. Let's do that instead. There's a problem with not actually like preparing for your stream properly. Yeah. Unity really really does not help you with its drawing APIs. I mean, there is if you ever find yourself needing to, Shapes by Freya Holmer is awesome, but I do not currently own it. I've just watched a bunch of people use it. You can render all this kind of stuff just quite easily, and yeah. If you ever want to learn about shaders, I think that Freya is probably the person who has taught me the most. She just really knows what she's doing. You have it, of course. Yeah, I kind of want like a reason to need this, if that makes sense. Like, I haven't been doing anything in Unity where I really need to do it this way, but I just want to buy it. There is something that fills me with a little bit of fear about it all being shader driven, just because I don't know if the rendering is going to be subtly off on like some devices, but like I suppose that's the price you pay for good performance in drawing in real time, right? Because like bitmap based drawing is dog slow for a game. Yeah, I think it's a great use case for prototype graphics for a game. Like it doesn't really, it just lets you get moving faster. Like this is the kind of thing that I do where I'll just like scribble a few pixels in a sprite to be able to have something on screen too. Okay, so let me get this open. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by chat, but it is interesting to talk. Okay, so let's start this. Any minute now. Yes, that one. So I'm watching this window down here for when it finishes the initial build. No, it's really you don't have to shush. You keep chatting. I need to stop responding immediately to everything. Cool. So we've got HTTP server here. I believe is the one I'm after. Yay! An incredibly pixelated bunch of cubes. So this is where I left this project last time I used it, and we're going to just duplicate this file so I have a copy of it, and then not look at it at all for now. So this is just a backup of what I had in this project before. Pixely. Cool. And then we're going to strip this down so that I don't have these buggy things here. Why? You just don't like that name because it... Whatever, I don't care at all about that bug actually. So we don't need the shader anymore. If I save this already, what do I have now? Okay, we have already improved the appearance of it slightly, but not by much. Why is it so pixely? What did I do here? We set the initial size of the canvas to what? 60 by 60. Yes, that's maybe a little low res for this particular case. Let's try, what's that like? Refresh. Yeah, okay, look at that, much nicer. Cool, so we've got a bunch of cubes, they're wobbling. You said 128. 128 might look nice on us. Let's have a look. Look, they're both good. We just want it to be chunky, but enough that I can actually read what's happening. I might leave it at 256 just for now. We'll tweak it as throughout. It's pretty easy to change. Cool, so let's get this, I'll pop this window out actually and just put this next to the code. Get this minimized. Get this across here, something like that. We don't need the dual panel for now. I won't be using the REPL. Cool, so at the moment we're just rendering a bunch of cubes. How very PS1 of you. Running a bunch of cubes with some lighting. So this is the way that quil/processing's API works. If anyone hasn't seen this, like, it's very imperative in the way it's like thought of. You just have a sequence of instructions you basically pass to some drawing mechanism. So here, look, we put the background as black. We have a camera, and that's moving based on time. So that's what these sine and cos are doing with this circular motion. Set the specular of anything we're rendering, put directional light in, point light, ambient light, just so these have some shading on them. And then, yeah, we're just drawing boxes in a sequence. So we I'm going to want to probably not have the camera moving right now, even though it looks pretty cool. So let's duplicate that line, comment one out, and just put it as a static position of maybe 0, 0 perhaps. Oops, 0, 0 perhaps. I think that might have been a mistake. Maybe it had to be 150 and 150. Yes, much better. I think that that's just because we need, yeah, the eye needs to actually be able to look at the things that are being drawn at the origin, which makes sense. So this sequence is not really right, but we're going to want to draw a box still. So let's copy this little fragment here, then we want to do something like, well, actually better first. We want to generate a grid, right? Because that's what I was mocking up in here, is we need a grid of stuff, a two-dimensional grid, obviously. So define grid, and this will have a width and a height to it. So this is defining a function called grid, which takes width and height as a parameter. What are we going to do to make a grid here? We need basically a two-dimensional array, right? So if you like, there's a few ways to write this in Clojure, but for example, if we do range, like I have it down here, of 0 to 3, right? That's so, and we do 0 to w, so that's going to give me like an array from 0 up to w. And then if you think about what a 2D grid is, if you think of a nested array, we want a list of lists, and so we want like h lists of w width, right? So we need to do range twice. We need range w and range h, and then we need to so if we go to over here, we'll map over range of this with a function, and that will take the, it doesn't matter what this is, it's called the index, it can be I, and then we return range 0 to h in that. So this is going to give us a grid of numbers. What those numbers are is not really all that important to us, to be honest. But let's see what this looks like. So after saying that I wasn't going to need the REPL, I do in fact need the REPL. So calva REPL, where's my, it's just in here, isn't it? Yeah. Can I like put this at the, yes, much better. Good stream setup. All right. So if we call grid with 3, 3, right? Definite first, then run it. So this is the greatest thing about Clojure, right? Like I can just be like, put this function in scope, and then I can just run this example here, and it shows me what it outputs. So I didn't have to like actually wire this up to anything, didn't have to write any tests, didn't even have to console log. You can just look at it. Very useful. Yeah, it's a super fast feedback cycle. That's one of the reasons why I really love this language, is because you don't have to like jump through so many hoops to test your ideas. So this seems good to me, right? We've got a 3 by 3 matrix out of this. Let's make sure that this does the same thing we expect at 5 by 5. Yep. So now what we're going to need to do is basically iterate over this, right? Like a two-dimensional iteration. Now, there are actually other ways of expressing a grid that might be better here, but I'm going to stick with this one just for the time being. I just realized this doesn't even get used, so we don't need to have the I in there. Let's just do, so if we say do seek, and then we've got for each row of grid 5, 5, then we also want to do seek col of grid of row. Actually, it's cell of row. And the thing, we don't actually even need the variable cell. We just want to do this many times, I think. No, I'm wrong. We actually want to have the coordinates in here. So I need to extend this a little bit more actually then. So I'm going to map this one to function of that. So this is the x now, and this is the y. And then we want to return x, y. So like this is pretty confusing code, right? But thankfully we can just look at what it returns. So if we do this and then we do this, now we have a, oh, I didn't print it all out because I printed it down here. Yeah, now we have lists of coordinate pairs in each of those lists. So you actually got this like grid where each cell contains its own coordinates. which means that when we get down to here, we actually do have something valid in cell. And Clojure has this great syntax where you can destructure stuff in line. I can change this to X, Y here and pull those pieces out. And now I can just choose to, where's my snippet like I did before? Exactly this, right? I can displace by X and Y and then draw a box. Now I imagine this is going to result in a bunch of boxes on top of each other because I haven't got any spacing defined, but let's have a quick look. So where's my window? Yep, that's a lot of boxes on top of each other. Love it. So let's just do a quick, like, def spacing is 32. Space is 32. And then we multiply X by spacing. Yeah, it's perfect now. Get some prints made of my overlapping cubes. Okay, so if we save that, that's a little better. Now the thing I'm noticing is that I did say isometric and we're currently working with a perspective camera. How do we, so quil.info, set it to an orthographic camera? Camera, ortho. You just call ortho? It's a weird API to do that, sure. I just figured that shouldn't work this way. Alright, we're done. It's perfect. Why is the back clip plane cutting this cube off? Is that the edge of my canvas? No. Stop debugging the web tools. It really doesn't look like that's the edge of the canvas. Yeah, I really wish that you could, like, well, you can make games in Clojure and ClojureScript. Like, there's nothing that really stops you, but it's not very popular. So there's not a lot of support or engine stuff, but I've definitely been pretty tempted to move towards this. Like, you can see why it's so easy to test out your ideas just updating live. So what does this do if I bump this up a little bit? Ah, cool, that's better. Starting to see the edges between them. It is frustrating to me that this isn't actually isometric, but I'm surprised it's even close, considering the fact we just set the elevation to a random number, basically. In fact, why does the camera even... It just looks down at that from that height. Okay, so yeah. This is going to give us a 45-degree angle of view, isn't it? My trigonometry in 3 dimensions is not good enough without drawing a diagram here. Whatever, let's keep going. We want to stroke... Why are you there? Please come in this spot. Q/stroke. I guess we want this to be white at the moment. And I think that I'm going to turn the fill off, so... Interesting. Oh, because I have specular maxed out, it's shiny on top. Yeah. Apparently that's not the reason. Alright. Oh, it was. It just somehow, like, remembered that. Why? We're in hue, saturation, brightness mode. So yes, that does make sense. Maybe we will just stay in RGB, and then we don't need this comment. That's also going to require a refresh. Yeah, okay, now we have the white grid. Now I'm bothered by my outlines being so shoddy, but like we'll get there. Stroke. Wait. Come on. Wait. 2. Chunkier. Better. So now let's imagine that let's do something interesting. So this is going to be q slash t. So just that they jiggle in. Divide t by 5. Much better. And then we actually want to do something like so that it ripples across it. Oh baby. All right. And y, what does that do? It's gonna, yeah, cause that kind of ripple. And then we can multiply this whole thing by like 3, and that's gonna make the amplitude larger. Oh, it's so wiggly. All right. I mean, this is very oddly satisfying to look at already. Maybe I'll make the box a little bit smaller, to be honest. Let's go down to like, so this is 25 and this is 24 instead. How about that? Nice. This back one, because it's being cut off, still kind of bothers me. I don't know if I need to just move the camera. Like, if we just went to like... Why does that not work? It's like camera... Oh, well, we did it. All right. Cool. So that's like the basic premise set up pretty nicely there. Let's think about how to make this a bit more visually interesting than just warbling these cubes in space. Although, to be quite honest, this is quite satisfying. Had a coffee, time for water. So, maybe we should... So if we look at what I once again drew in Figma, I was sort of thinking about arbitrarily having some of these be taller columns than others. So how would we do that? All right, we need to store some concept of how tall each grid cell is. And we've already got this grid generation function here, which outputs this. I think maybe... Okay, so this is janky, but I'm fine with doing janky stuff in creative coding sketches. We can just put another element into this, which is going to be the height of each stack. So I just need a random number, which I think Quil can help me with here. Random. Min-max, yep, perfect. And this is floating. If 2 parameters passed, it will return a float. I guess I can just floor it. I want them to be integer because we're going to have like, you can't have 2.5 cubes in the stack, right? So /random, maybe somewhere like 4. Let's have a look at what that puts us at when we... The object failed to print. Cannot read property random of null. I beg to differ? Oh, right. You got to evaluate the imports, otherwise it doesn't know how to import functions when you do this. No, apparently I still haven't done it right. What is this? You know what this function is, and yet you don't want to print it for me. Sigh. What's going wrong here? Can't read property random of null. I really want to just disagree with you. Like, does this function not exist? If I run the actual app with this saved, like, is it just a problem with the REPL or is it a problem with the actual code? It would appear we have crashed. Nope, okay. So then, down in my iteration, now we can unpack this, and we've also got the height of each column here. So that's going to make us actually do this another bunch of times. And this is, I guess, the Z for... Hey Jake, what's going on, man? We're making some cubes wobble around. What's not to understand? Wobbly cubes. All day, every day. Range of 0 to Z. Cubes don't wobble. The cube's natural state is perfectly stationary. So in this situation, yeah, put that inside. Let's just be height, not Z. No, massacring my keys. Height there. Then instead of just this, we actually also want to add Z times space Z. Yes. Perfect, some might say. You might think that this isn't what I was trying to achieve, but this is exactly right. Totally. This is because each time that we call grid, we're generating a new random number in each of these cells. So really, I should generate this once at the start of the sketch and keep using it instead of generating it constantly. So that's what we're going to do. We've got this setup function, and that can then do our initial config and pass some values into our draw loop. So let's do grid here is grid 5, 5. Now that's going to mean I have to move my grid declaration up a little bit. And just delete that bit. Cool. And then in here, we can now pull out, we don't need color, but we can pull out grid from our object. So like, I'm not going to explain the syntax too much, but this object here is a bunch of keys and values, and then down here we can destructure to pull out the values of the keys and bind them to a name. So grid here becomes grid here. I copy this, then we replace this with this. Oops. First it's going to crash, then I'm going to refresh the page, and then it should hopefully get over it at some point. Nope, what's wrong with you? Quil starter run sketch is not a function. Give me more. Why does this cause that? Put it back to how it was, check if that fixes it. Doesn't really seem like it. I think oh, did I fuck something else up? That's right. Okay, so I think my parentheses are mismatched down here. Yes, they are. There should be one more. Not out of the woods yet. What does this one match with? Why did it only render it once? Excuse me. What's happening? Alright, let's hit undo until it works again. This is the classic. I must have just mangled something when I was doing this change here. Yeah, because you can see this doesn't like... This thinks it's inside the declaration. So when I added the brackets, something got fucky here. Alright, so if we go back to this. Yeah, now back, cool. We're in safe places now. So let's do this again. Range, 0, height. So what I'm going to do is put all of that inside this, but leave this function the way it is. So if we save this, this won't change anything. Good. Now we add times space z by this. We're back to flickering town. Very good. Grid. Move this back up again. And then put this in here. Sometimes you gotta go forward to go backward, right? Sorry, wait, that's the wrong way around. You go backwards to go forwards. Cool, and then we just read grid here. That's not going to like it until I refresh, but we should succeed. I'm just thoroughly confused. What's going on? Like, if we look at grid, it's nil. I know why. So we've got I'm just stupid. I'm still warming up. Sorry, everyone. You see this update state function? Yeah. So this runs every frame and allows you to update the state, and it's taking in the state and not including the grid in the state when it updates. So what we need to do is something like grid is grid of state. Hooray! Look at me go. Alright, so we got wiggly columns now. I actually think they may be a little bit too high. So let's do 3 instead. And then refresh. Yeah, okay. My beautiful cubes. So there's another thing that we could do, which is, so right now this is just random, the height, right? But that's not quite what you would want in a realistic kind of landscape situation. So if we go to quil again, and go to the example, sorry, the API, I meant the API. Then we want noise. Yeah. So try the example here. Is this just printing noise values or does it render them? Whatever. So quil has this function called noise. This is going to give us Perlin noise. So images. Yeah, so this is Perlin noise. And the thing that's cool about Perlin noise is that it is not just a completely jagged random thing. You can use it to make landscapes like this. These don't really look like real landscapes, but they look like computer landscapes. So that's going to be good enough for our purposes for now, I think. So let's change this app to Q noise and then X and Y. This likely is going to make it not look right. We'll have to scale these numbers in some capacity, but let's look at what we get. So I'll have refreshed. So we got nothing useful, and that's also because noise returns a value between 0 and 1, so which is like white to black in those images. So we need to actually take that value from 0 to 1 and turn it into some understanding of the terrain's height as an integer. So let's just quickly do that, like defen terrain height, and this is like t, to be honest. If something goes between 0 and 1, then t is the variable name it gets. That's just how we roll in this kind of code. So we need to, first you need to times it by something to make it taller, right? So if we're going to have a maximum of, this depends how I round the number, let's say we're on a maximum of 3 things. So we times it by 3, but now we don't have an integer, we have a float. We need to floor it in some capacity. Does quil have a nice flooring function that we should use? Quil's APIs are sometimes better to use than the built-in closure ones for stuff like this, but yeah, so we could do that. Is there a round also? Typed it wrong. Yes. So I'm trying to decide. We don't want it to be 0, so let's we actually might just seal it. That's probably better again. Cool. So then we just wrap. We do terrain height of this. Save. Oh, of course, once again we must refresh. Cool, so this has worked. I think we probably want a little bit more grid for, to really see the effect better though. So let's cut an 8x8 grid and let's drop the size. So let's kind of drop grid is 24 and space is 25. Size is 24 and space is 25. Then I just dropped this in down here just to make sure we don't have to change in too many places. And this actually is this is inc of size. It just needs to be one bigger so they have space between them. And if we drop this to 16, dunk, got nice and small, refresh, we'll have an 8x8 grid. Oh baby. So let's drop the wobbling down in terms of intensity because now the grid's a little bit smaller. It might just be because it's fast. Yeah, look at that. Oh, that's the good stuff. Cool. And so Let's try timesing these values by something like x and y here, because like the further you move in noise space, the more variety you're going to get moment to moment. So you see how all of these things are basically the same height. Let's see if we can get a little bit more variation coming in from this. Whoops, that's not what we meant to do. Oh, it's alright actually. Cool. Just bring this in a little bit. Yeah. If we times by 2 on y as well, we'll have to refresh because it has to regenerate the grid. Okay, so this is a little bit better already. Yeah, so you can see each time we do it, getting something fairly unique. Wobble, wobble, wobble. Now, this is about the point where you start being like, okay, so now we have to actually try and make something interesting out of this. So what can we do? And maybe the answer to that is something like, okay. If we add to the x coordinate the z coordinate, what does that do in the first place? That's going to make everything that's taller slant over to one side, right? Bear with me. This is the kind of way that like creative coding works, to be honest, where you just fuck around with it until you find what looks good. So yeah, that's looking pretty interesting, right? To have it all shifted over like that. But what if that was animated again? So if we put in q/cos of t, what does that give us? It looks so good. It's beautiful. All right. Let's break this apart a bit because it's becoming illegible. So, yeah, we want to break this into the 3 coordinate pieces because then it's easier to read. So that's x, y, z. Basically going to copy x as 1 and then just make it into y here. And then if we turn this into a sign, we should get a circle, sort of crazy wiggling now. Yep. Let's do a let binding up near the top here. Let t be t divided by 10. Yeah, we just want to scale time globally here because otherwise I'll have to change it at every single use site, which is silly. Yeah, and now we got the good stuff again. This might be a little bit extreme. Oh, I didn't say it. Yeah. It's interesting, you just can't really see the like Z movement anymore with this. I don't really like this that much, so we're gonna turn that up. I think what might be an interesting thing to do though is, oh right, we double dividing by 10. That's why that's so subtle. Yeah. What if the boxes got smaller as they got further up, so they became pointier, right? That could be interesting. So the box's size divided by Z. What does that do? Ooh, maybe a little extreme. Divided by Z divided by 2. Whoa. I mean, that's kind of cool too, but not in the way I wanted it to be. Yeah, dividing it's too extreme, but we want it to, what sort of function do I want here? Because this is resulting in, why is there no 3 high towers? Is it just a quirk, or are they actually at like 0 basically? Because if you think about like, the Z should only get up to like 4. Can it just not draw boxes that are like 4 in size? Maybe not. What about yeah, so dividing it by 2 is a mistake, obviously, but what if it's like size minus Z? And then we work from that instead? And then we can just multiply Z up instead of worrying about taking it down. So like 3, for example, there. Whoa. So getting a lot of visual fighting with the strokes being the size they are. What about on stroke with 1? This is getting somewhere, actually. This is kind of cool. Let's increase the height of the pillars a little bit. So we said 3 up here, let's go to 5. And we'll regenerate it. Ooh. So I think we need to move the camera if we want these outlines to look good. And I'm not sure what the right calculation is for that. So we're going to just plug random numbers in, which is the only way that I know how to do anything. Well, 80 hit the close, so the near clip plane, but it does look a little bit better. Maybe I'll just look into quickly clip rendering. Sorry, Jake, that sent me a little bit. That's pretty good. Entering random numbers in my phone is how I met my girlfriend. Look, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm not sure what your odds are, but the odds aren't 0, so it's worth it. So, no clip disables the clipping started by clip. That's not what I'm interested in. I want to work on the clip. Let's look at P5JS clip plane. Okay, do we not have an obvious way to avoid you getting cut off? Guess not. Alright, put the camera back where it was. How can I guarantee that these would be nice outlines instead of these shitty ass, like, dithery ones like this, right? Question, does this look better if I space them out more? It doesn't really seem to. Why? It doesn't create any space between them still at the bottom. Oh, there we go. I gotta say, I like how this looks, and yet I feel like I can't tell what's going on at all. So maybe we need to just up the resolution. That's my my next trick, I guess. What if we do like this? Of course, we must refresh to make it re-render. Well, we can move the camera closer now. Apparently we can't. Why does that not make things bigger to move the camera closer? You would think that it would. What does it look like if we turn this yo-yo camera back on now? Ooh. That's pretty cool. Maybe we up the size of these boxes again a little bit, shall we? It's like this back at 24. It just all gets big, right? Yeah. That's 32. Okay, so we're hitting the near clip plane again. To be honest, the pixeliness is not helping us. Let's just go even higher res and see if that improves the readability again. Like, not really. We probably want to go back to a stroke size of 2, at least 1.5. And then, why does this result in near plane clipping here? Camera needs to. Oh, it's. I can't believe. I thought the camera getting further and closer would make things bigger and smaller, but it's an orthographic camera, which means, of course, that isn't the case. That's not how they work. Okay, so to be honest, we just need to make these numbers bigger, right? Like 250 should avoid the close clip plane problem. Yeah. Cool. And then, so I sort of feel like it should be this camera position, like looking like this on it. Yeah, except these are numbers are all shit now. Like this should be the setup. And then we sort of just want to like, suppose you want to like rotate around to the like different. What kind of function gives you that? You want spikes, like sharp spikes at each of the points. All right, let's just times these by sine, but kind of naively instead. So pretty much what this is doing, but we will change some of the parameters up. Mainly this is way too slow now. It's wobbling. What if we did this on the Z coordinate instead of the Y coordinate? That's pretty cool. Now the question becomes, does it just get better if you keep adding more spaces to the grid? Like, I don't see why it wouldn't be cool. Ooh. Okay, that's kind of a cool effect, hitting the clip plane, to be honest. Though, I think what we might want to do is, let's do some defs up here quickly. Def width 12, def height. That's not really height, but whatever. No changes, good. Then we want to, within here, let x equal minus x divide width 2, y minus y divide height 2, then include this inside that. This should move everything back halfway. Yes. Interestingly, that gave us even more variations. So this is rotating around the middle of the grid instead of the back point, which I think looks better. It almost doesn't seem symmetrical, but like I'm pretty sure that it has to be. Turn this up to 300, just so it stops clipping. And I mean, why not like go harder than this, right? Like turn this up to 1024, so you won't clip, and then we must have hit the back clipping plane. We're back at 512, okay. So if you bump this up to like 16 by 16, does it just keep getting better? Like when do we find that this doesn't look good anymore? This is off. Nope. So, hang on. My positioning offset thing is broken, firstly. I did this the wrong, like this is not the right conceptual way to do this. We actually want to do something like Q with translation. So we want to, yeah, translate negatively in both axes, I think still, but so minus divide width 2 and minus divide height 2 and 0. And then bring that around that. That seems to be correct. I think. I don't know, I feel like we're rotating from the back point still, aren't we? Oh, well, that's probably true actually, because we wanted to do something more like this. Tell you what, the working out whether you're in the XZ or the XY plane, so variable between different environments. I think we can make these stacks taller again to get something cool. So let's change this to an 8. Like, what does that look like? Oh, of course, we must refresh the page. Whoa. Eight might be too much. Let's go 6. Refresh. Nice. If we turn off no smooth, what does that look like if we put smooth on? It is easier to see what's happening. I cannot tell a lie. It is better. Let's look up a nice color to do this with, like a amber CRT color. You know, this is the kind of thing that Google does better than Brave. Cool. We just want, yeah, we want like this color in here. That's what I'm after. With some glow would be cool on this, wouldn't it? That's hard to do. Well, I haven't been able to get shaders working properly in Quil recently, so it's not hard to do conceptually, but it's hard to do if you can't use a shader. I'll say that much. Let's grab the color from this image just using Figma. Like, that's a nice one, right? That's pretty good. Copy that. Oh wait, no, as RGB. 253, 178, 25. 253, 178, 25. After all this time, this is still the only way I know how to deal with copying colors between contexts. A part of me feels like there should be some kind of interpolation of the color from low to high here. But that would mean going back to HSV mode, which we can do. So, HSL. What's the difference between HSL and HSB? We were in HSB before, right? Like, so if we do this, it's going to give me colors that don't make any sense. Yeah, she's pretty dark, to be honest. And then you 40, 90, 99. So what does that look like? Incorrect. Which means, I guess we're going to HSL 40, 98, 55. Also not right. Why? I thought, like, an HSB, aren't I? Like, why is this not good enough? Like, I understand that it's, say I understand. I don't seem to understand anything. I don't know why it's not working the way I wanted it to. This color's not awful, but it's not what I wanted. Similar to this kind of dynamic, we want the color to change as the Z changes, and I think the brightness is the logical value to apply that change to. So if you, for example, take from 99Z times 3, that's going to cause them to be darker at the top by an indiscernibly small amount if it is happening. Yeah, so you can see that's fading out now. Like, go to 20. Yeah, that's cool, right? I think we almost want the inverse of this. I think we want to add, not subtract. What does that give us? Bonk. Oh, I deleted the constant. That's an important piece. Yeah, so you've got the opposite effect here, right? Well, now we've got the higher up ones are brighter. It's looking pretty nice. Let's make this fall off slower. And then we can maybe even increase the height more based on that part, right? So in the grid, yeah. Regenerate the grid. Yeah. And then this, I want to see what the difference is if we rescale these. Like, this should be smoother if I pull it, if I divide it down. So what if we do like this, right? Like this should give us some almost rolling hills kind of stuff. Apparently not at all. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's sick. Yeah. So you can see like this is almost too gentle by comparison in terms of the effect we're dealing with. I also am a little tired of, let's just do this on the x-axis, not the y-axis. I just want to see it like shwork, shwork, left to right, huh? Actually, maybe this should just be sine, and that's what's hard about this, is that we want to just go left to right instead of circling. I'm not convinced. I think this is the wrong axis. It's kind of cool, yeah. Alright, so that division was maybe a little extreme, but at 0.2, is that like, I can hear the sound of my washing machine singing gently in the background. Yeah, some of these are quite cool. And so this is where you can actually do some cool stuff with like code like this, right? Where you've got this whole setup, and then we can just start fucking around with it. So where is the 3D primitives? So if you, for example, wanted to just plop in a sphere, right? Instead of a sphere with the radius. So just like q/sphere instead. Just straight drop in. Like, that is a completely different look. Wow. Enjoyed doing the washing, Jake. Maybe a little extreme there. I think the sphere detail's too high. So if you can do sphere detail like 10 or something, right? Like, what does that give us? Undeclared. I just saw the. Did I like spell it wrong? Use of undeclared quil sphere detail. Apparently, it is not how it works. Like, why? It exists, doesn't it? Alright, my blue's a different shade because apparently I can't be trusted with this. Does torus have detail? It just takes detail as parameters. Why doesn't sphere work that way? So torus takes a few parameters, right? It's radius, tube radius, detail x, detail y. Radius, tube radius can be constant, detail x and detail y. I don't know what the defaults are. 24 and 16 apparently, so 8 and 8 maybe. That's what's mean it's kind of low poly in here. Ooh. We can go way less detail on one of these. Not what I expected, but rather cool as well. It's an interesting effect as well from the toruses. What about this detail brown instead? I think we actually probably wanted to be altering that one this whole time. So put it back to 8 there. And then we can probably crank this one down even more. What's the one detail look like on this? Does it just explode? Oh, it does makes them rings, right? Silly, of course. Make them fatter. What does that do? Nothing if you don't have this parameter set to something useful, I guess. Man, you get some really interesting effects out of this. Like, I don't know if I like it as much as the cubes. I don't think I do, but it's cool. What about a cube? Oh, sorry, a cone. So I said the wrong thing. Cone. So the cone is radius, which we want to keep decreasing. Height can be constant, which is something like 12. Detail x, detail y. The detail, so that defaults to 24. Let's put them at like 8 and 8 then. There should be a bunch of other up pointing that way. Interesting. It's not what I thought would be the case. The height is too low. Oh. Yeah. Now they're all pointing in that direction, and they're pretty tall. Cool. Now, if we drop the detail down a bit more, none of this is really as good as the boxes, you know. It's just sometimes you can't beat a good box. Yep. Oops. Yeah, no, I definitely like how that looks more than anything else we've done. This should be maybe 2 or 3 though. Like, can we just turn this up like to silly levels, maybe? Oh, we certainly can turn it up to silly levels. I think it needs to be like, it's by maxing out the brightness value. So get this down to like 50 or like 20 even. Yeah, so it's like rising out of it there. And then the spacing can be just 2 instead of 3, I think. Maybe even look at 1. The problem is this, right? I guess you want to change this to a minus and minus z2. Should that be plus? It's actually this one, once again. So yeah, we want to take this number here, subtract from it z2. Yeah, it's getting better. 8. One? This doesn't get smaller so quickly. Yeah, that's kind of cool. To be honest, if it didn't even degrade, would it be better? Like, that's the F1, C0. R0. Let's remove this piece too. Because it's good. That's cool too, but it's not what we wanted. Is this as good? It's hard to say. I think this creates some cool separation and detail sort of thing going on, yeah. So, question, that let's lower this back down because I think 14 is excessive. Maybe 10 would be a good number. But then, like, what happens if you just pump these up? Like, I know I'll hit the clipping plane, that's fine. But what does it look like? No, you didn't rebuild yet. Yeah. She gets a little slower, hey. Let's put it back. Nice. You can refresh and get a different one every time. Now, what I'd like to do is some kind of randomization on the color, because I think that could be pretty cool. So imagine like we say this is times 40 Q noise XY, right? What does that give us here? That's pretty cool. Then we can multiply these numbers by stuff to give it more of a dramatic feel. Where this way it'll be more dramatic on the x-axis and the y-axis. This way it'll be both. Maybe like 60 times instead. Maybe like 255 times it. Oh, we have rainbow cubes now. Let's see. 128 gives us a restricted rainbow. Yeah, not so nice. The saturation is maxed at 90 as the thing, so maybe like 128 is better. Pretty happy with this, right? I think that this is a pretty cool little effect we've ended up with. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's not crazy. It's not that hard to achieve, but I'm pretty keen on it. I don't really like the color palette. I think we've got to keep playing with that. Like, we might get some interesting effects if we can use the noise value more creatively. I guess the other thing is like, what happens if you just do something like this, right? Where you've got the colors cycling now. Well, okay, that wasn't going to work, was it? Because we actually want to do something more like scrolling on one axis with T. Where, like, you see here, it's going to color cycle on the x-axis now. But it's still pretty subdued just because of how non-extreme this number is. What if it comes to 128 again? What do you get? Yeah, so this is too high, I think, it's the problem with the noise. It should be down at 0.2, not 2. Same as the overall grid. Because now you'll see the colors are slowly moving over the landscape instead. And then that's the other thing that we could do actually, is instead of upfront encoding this piece into the data, we can actually not, and just not destructure height, and do this instead. And the reason why we might do that is because we can also, yeah, I've got a little bit of the height space coloring going on, really with just the brightness value from bottom to top here. Let me just try this as well, because I think we might be able to get somewhere here. Like, if we grab this way of using noise, I mean, this code is getting a little bit repetitious, but that's fine. That piece was fine. Then I want to put a plus, just this, and then make that a Y. So this should actually result in the terrain heights also changing, which is going to be interesting. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so now we're moving through the noise space. Maybe we want to do that a little slower, I'm guessing. It's going to be weird because you can do it on one axis and not the other. Through the noise space. That's what any of my music projects should be called, because I think it's probably the most generous interpretation of what I've done so far in terms of music. This is kind of cool, like them just popping in and out. I mean, like, it's sort of jarring, but it is cool. I think maybe let's take that back out for a sec, just so I can keep, don't change everything at once. I want to mess around with the colors a little bit more. So if we use the Z value should also probably be augmenting the color, like you suggested, really. Let's try, once you just put Z in, that's not going to work, is it? But we divide Z by 10 or something, what does that give us? Like, sorry, it will work. I need to times it by 10 probably though, don't I? Like, no, okay, it was definitely right before. So that's interesting, right? Because you get like a hue shift from bottom to top as well as a brightness shift now. What if you change the scaling factor? So that increases the peak, obviously, yeah. Let's get in there. So this number is obviously critical now to the overall appearance of this thing, because that will, end up with some cool peak values if we can. I try and stay away from rainbow cycling usually, but this could work here. Like, that's pretty good, right? If we can remove the time influence on the colors too and just leave it like, then you've got truly height dependent coloring of the terrain. So that's quite cool. It's like a, I don't know, it's like a heat map visualization of the terrain space there. I quite like this actually. I think that was a good call. Thank you. I sort of want to see, like, I don't know that it needs to be as tall as it is, but I think I want it to be wider. So let's bump these up a little bit. I know we're going to bring back in the clipping plane problem I was complaining about this whole time, but I'm just going to have really poor performance actually. That's the problem we're running into here. So it's probably doing web stuff sometimes, right? Yeah, I agree. It's kind of cool being able to, like, you feel like you're visualizing some slice through this like higher dimensional space. Look, at the risk of destroying my computer, let's just pump this up to a number that is stupidly large. Yeah, 0 FPS. Maybe let's go back to not that. Excuse me. Yeah, we can maybe get it to, if I drop the frame rate to just 1 so that it like doesn't try and render very often. What happens if we just put this at like 128? That first frame is going to take a minute. Okay, so my offsetting code is not working properly, the translation I was using. Did I actually fuck this up still? Like, next frame, will you get more code? That seems more correct. You can see all the clipping plane parts at the front here. To be honest, we sort of just want a bigger canvas. How do I set the orthographic camera size? Ortho. Oh, yes, of course. So 0 width height. Yeah, that makes sense. We can affect the clipping plane. That's what I was doing wrong this whole time. So 0, Are we going to get a frame anytime soon? Please? Did I do something bad? I probably did something bad. No crashes, but I guess my camera logic is probably balked. So let's drop this down to a number that can render and put the frame rate back at like 30 or something, and then we'll check if the camera resizing can function. Are you gonna recompile this or not? Delete all of this stuff and then just get it back to it, render something. Yeah. Now put it back in. My canvas size is that. They in the docs. When we say width and height, what are width and height, right? Like, is that in pixels? Doesn't seem like it should be. What if this is like 100 or 10 to 10? Because it could be, it's probably in world coordinates, you would think. Or is it just the clip plane? Like, because this is negative 10, 10 normally. Are you lying to me about the defaults? What is width supposed to be? But like, yeah, it's no fun if the docs say what the code actually does. You've just got to engage your programmer brain. So like, I just don't know what units they're supposed to be in. Like, you would think that by making the rendering volume massive, I would see something, wouldn't you? Or like, if you move the clip planes really, really far away, at least. Oh! Something. Maybe this is the problem. Yes, okay, we're getting somewhere. Aha! So we'll be able to fit a lot more on screen this way. That's what I was going for. Now if we put this back down to stroke rate 1.5, how does that look? A little lighter on screen. Even 1? Is that better? It's a little dim. Yeah, just do that. Cool. So now, back to like 1 frame, 5 FPS or something, right? Like, just because I don't want it to catch fire while I'm doing this. Excellent. Now let's make it massive. Ooh, yes. Okay. It's possibly a little large, but we got close. That's looking pretty cool. Nice. And I dropped the height, didn't I? So interesting, that makes a big difference. 4.5. Well, I'm pretty happy with this. Let's make it so that we can capture some images of this. How different does it look on each recompile? Cool. Nice. That's pretty fun. So if we look, we could probably take this a little bit further, but I actually just think I want to capture some images of this. So let's have a look at quil, save image. You know that I have the API docs open. Should probably just look in here. Save. Yep. I've done this before somewhere. Item in sketches, in source, in sketches, in, yeah, what's in here? Cat the Perlin flow file. Key pressed F, save image, city smoke. That's the one. Obviously it's not going to be called city smoke in this case, but it doesn't really matter. So key pressed, and that's, when I have F here, what is F from? util.files. Yeah, that file seems useful. Sure, let's just grab one of those. This should be called ns_starter.util, and then we define save image. Cool. Then in here we're going to need to import that, so we're going to go starter.util as u, and then down here where I put in this, it's actually u/save image. And we're going to call this, did this already append the date? No. CRJS current date time. I guess I don't need to do this way. I can just, oh, sure. This is the, if someone has a snippet for me, yeah, give me that one. We want stir of that with, sorry, we actually want stir of that with that. So this way we will end up with a prefixed file name when we save these things. And this one is called iso. So if we do this, we get S, then we have this file coming in. Nice, and that's our nice high quality export of what was on the canvas. So you can see here that my camera does not need to be anywhere near this elevated. Like, can this one just be like 255 instead? Oh, no, but that's also cool. You see, this one and this one, probably the mix up I'm doing here. Ah, that's also very cool, right? You change the angle of projection here. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Like, I'm not going to say that I think that it's better, but actually, you know what? Can we up the resolution for rendering now? Like, I don't know if this is going to just destroy the web page. Yeah, because that looks crap, but if I hit S, what does the image I get out of it look like? When you zoom in, this is pretty crispy, but we probably need some thicker stroke if we're going to render at such a ridiculously high resolution for this stuff. So 3 maybe? Try that. That hadn't reloaded the code yet, I don't think. Yeah, that's better. Capture that one. Yeah, so those look pretty nice. There's some nice high quality renders. Cool. No, wait, what was the cropping like? That was the other thing I was thinking about, because like, it is kind of weird that I've just got it stuck in like that, right? So maybe let's do it just as much to do with this as anything else. That's the bottom and top. So like, do that, and then what do we get in the scene? Does this distort the whole image? Ooh, in a way that's actually somewhat pleasing, it does, yeah. That's interesting, right? Look at that, look how stretched out they've become. So this is like not obviously, this is not the actual isometric projection anymore when you're doing that. The like, I just don't quite see what I'm doing wrong yet. Yes, I do. This movement thing doesn't work at all. It needs to be in world space, not grid space. Yeah, okay. And then there's a good chance that this was actually on the correct axis before. Oh no, that's not right, but that is interesting. Hold on, why am I so bad at this? Let's have a look. This is with translation vector, yeah. Wait, that is right then. That is right, it's just clipped off. Okay, so the far clip is at 1,000, put it to 10,000. Boom, we're in business. I think that might fix my position. Yes, it does. Much better. It should be moved down like a little bit. But I also don't care enough to perfectly center it, do I? I probably do care enough to perfectly center it, knowing me. Just refresh this quickly. So like, the thing is I haven't got a border around the canvas, so I can't actually tell properly where everything is. It's almost insane. It needs to move down a little bit, yeah. So like, this is the level of dedication I'm thinking of in terms of positioning it in the center. Just offset it manually by a little bit. Cool. So we've got that now. The question becomes, can we push the limits? Can we do even more? What does this look like at 64? Now we've got the camera set up functioning somewhat. That's quite cool. We'll probably have to boost it a bit more, but imagine if it filled the whole square canvas. Like that's the vibe I'm thinking of here. So this is going to be really, really slow, but that's cool right now. That is a wallpaper right there. Yeah, t-shirt worthy, wallpaper worthy, exactly. Like, look at that. That's pretty good. So, I mean, this is obviously like, you can see you're just visualizing a noise field here, but it still looks pretty cool to me. Shame you can't render this one at 60 FPS, but no matter. Got a few nice renders of this now. Now, with all these changes, makes you wonder what happens if you go back to like the sphere or something, where it's completely different rendering. This is gonna look bad, I can almost guarantee it, but let's have a look. She's working hard. There we go. Whoa. I mean, that looks really interesting in a way I wasn't expecting, actually. Well, this is the good thing about building the save function. We can just keep outputting all these captures of it. Oh, this is cool. When you look actually in the 4K render, you can see the wireframes and you can see the shading changing as you move through the space because the lighting is actually working on it. This one's pretty nifty. This one seems like we need to move the lights around a little bit though too. Because there's an ambient light which is, yeah. Makes you wonder, if you colorize the ambient light, how much better would this get too? So we've got a directional light which is at what? RGB. And then we've got a point light at 100. Where's the intensity value of the point light? There isn't an intensity value in the point light. If you move this to 10, what does that look like? I suppose is what I'm trying to work out here. Is this responsible for the shadows we're seeing, or is it the directional light that's more so responsible for that? You can't tell when the code's reloaded when it's only running at like a glacial couple of FPS. The easiest thing would have been to comment out the point light, because I think that would like show us if it does anything at all. I have a feeling it's the directional light just as inside. It's from one direction, it's strong when hitting a surface squarely. Yeah. So like, you can see what's happening here, but why is it such a small number? Like, we're just gonna mess around with this a little bit. I might drop the grid down just to get a little bit better rendering performance. No worries, Threely. Thanks for hanging out, man. When I remember to stream, it is quite a lot of fun. I just often forget that I actually enjoy it. Yeah, good luck with everything you're working on today. I'm sure I'll well, hopefully I'll see some of the outputs soon. Cheers, man. See you around. Hey, Jake. I mean, you don't have to constantly be in chat, man. I mean, I'm happy to just have people hanging out here with me while I enjoy doing what I'm doing. Now, it would be cool if I could work out what on earth is causing these ones to be so much more shadowed than these, because I want to like move this so this gradient effect is like more in the middle of this whole display. Is it not this? Is this not nothing to do with it? Because that would be a surprising revelation too. Oh, she's lagging, Captain. Come on. Come on. So it appears that this is not responsible for those shadows either. So is this responsible for them? Like, what happens when you turn off all the lights? There's just nothing? Please. 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 It would appear that all of those lights were doing nothing useful. Interesting. Alright, we're going to continue to solve this mystery in a second, but first I need to go to the toilet, so I will be back momentarily. I have returned. Cool. Let's just make sure we have a copy of this in its current state saved, because it looks pretty cool. Let's just see if... You know what, we really don't want to see that sidebar. Let's see if... Well, that's not what I meant to say. We'll reply to the thread where we started streaming with some of these outputs, because it's pretty cool. Let's have a look at all the things we've saved so far. Hey, alright, there's my quick preview. So we had this, 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 we had this. Progress so far. Generative art, creative, coding. Boom. It probably doesn't like how giant this image is, right? Oh, it just tweeted it, but said something went wrong, of course. Even better. Nice. Cool, let's get back to it. I think the shadows seem to remain a mystery currently. Like, you can see that what's implied here is that there's a light up here shining this way, but it seemed like it didn't make any difference whatsoever what I did with the lighting. Other questions. Are there better shapes to be using than spheres for outputs here? Let's go to the quil API. Okay, shapes. I wonder what the cylinder would look like. So that's the radius, and height can be size. That's enough for now, and just see what that looks like even. Ooh, they're all rotated on their side. That's nifty too. If we take this bit down to a somewhat reasonable number of them instead of 64, maybe, let's have a look at that. Yeah, what does that image look like? That's probably interesting too. It gives a really interesting effect, actually. I'm also kind of tempted to just like completely mess around with this now to just see what we can get in terms of draw outputs. Let's drop the resolution back so it can render quickly. Which means dropping the strobe rate back down to 1 too, I think. And yeah, then we'll bump the frame rate back up to like at least 30. Cool. And that's going to give us, yeah, something like real-time-ish preview. I'm interested to see what we can get out of changing the underlying noise function now, right? Where this is the noise value here. Is there a let somewhere? I'm gonna do it in here. Let n is this, wrap around everything, and then we can just n and So based on that alone, we can then do something silly like q/sine of noise, which is going to give you a completely different output, but not like as dramatically as I was expecting it to, it seems. I guess sine, if you have to, hang on, this is not quite right. You need to do times 2 q/pi, is that there? Does it exist? Pi. Where do I get constant quil CLJS pi? I can write 3.14 in there, I just don't want to. Is pi just in scope? Like this? Doesn't look like it. This seems to think q/pi does exist. Okay. That's more like it. Okay. Oh, it is quite different. Let's put this back on box mode, shall we? Yes, this gives you a process of like random pillars poking out of the darkness instead of like a uniform landscape, which is also quite cool. So let's like go back to how we had it then. If we up the resolution again to 26, we increase the stroke weight, and we drop the FPS to 5. We hit S on that one, then we get, nice, coming out of the darkness. That's pretty cool. Alright, now you can do even crazier stuff than this, because like sine's a fairly well behaved function, but what about like tan, right? Like tan, well behaved, tan's a naughty function. Yeah, but look at this, look what tan will give you. It gives you infinity stacks sometimes, which is pretty zany looking. Let's just have a quick look at what that looks like in full res. I mean, that's like a whole other thing. It's pretty cool. What do we have in here? A10? I don't think A10. A10 is probably not going to behave the way I want it to, but yeah, A10 is very uniform actually. A-cars. Ooh, R-cars is interesting. It gives you like barely anything in the space. This low level like underlying platform with a bunch of like spikes on it. I'm wondering if there's something that we can do that's useful here. I guess you can do the classic like q of sine of cos of like times 2 / q pi. Yes, that gives you this like, this is like a Fourier transform where we're like layering our trigonometric functions on top of each other. No, so this outer one is the one that needs to be like this. But like this one can be different. Ah, yeah, that's given us something interesting there, right? Yeah, so you have these islands, these blobs. That's pretty cool. This is actually cooler than, I think, the uniform landscape. So if you imagine like what that looks like there, then what does it look like when you extend it out to this? When it has actually rebuilt the code and has succeeded in doing it. Like, look at that. That's cool. That is some good stuff right there. Nice. Yeah. So you got that there. Let's try out the shapes again. This is what's great about it. You just try the recombinations of all the ideas you've had so far. Whenever you change something, you then swap out the shape, swap out the layout. See, that's interesting. It's frick to look at. Look at that. Nice. Very strange looking little structures. I think boxes are still my favorite outcome we've had. Question, yeah, you can do, there's 3 different dimensions to the box, obviously. Like, imagine these, where they're all different sizes. That's very weird. I think I got 0 on one of the dimensions there. We're getting some incredibly good outputs here. Drop this to like 32, so we have a much more grayscale sort of appearance. What is that like? Oh, that's super cool. This is a mistake. This needs to be closer to like size, right? This to actually do what I was thinking it would do originally. Yeah, now that's wild. Look at that. I'm getting some great outputs in the system. This is probably my favorite one we've got so far. It's awesome. It makes you wonder what even just like the raw noise function would look like on this. Like, take out just this sub-expression here, find that, and then take this out. What does that look like? Because that's going to just give us the normal noise sampling we had before. But now it's just a uniform, or more uniform field of it. Nice. Yeah, there's better ways of doing colors than this, but it's alright. The thing is, like, I feel like this isn't enough. I suppose you can really simply improve this by something like 128 and then plus like a base hue to go from, and then we pull this back up to like 128 saturation. And what this is going to do is give us like a window of 128 width into hue spectrum to move in. So you can even drop it down, right, like to 64. And it's going to make a less extreme gradient from bottom to top of these peaks when the thing actually re-renders. Yeah, like you get this much more uniform color space like that. Save, and then if we instead like put this to 92 or something, a higher number, then we get, any second now, I saved, right? I might need to move it more. 92 is just probably not enough. Oh, no, it was enough. That's cool. Blues. Then move this to like 145. Just testing random numbers out. The old pink-purple space, also an excellent outcome. Maybe 192 sort of area. And while we're doing this, did anyone like this so far? Oh, I just got some retweets. Cool. Nice. I moved in the color space, didn't I? And is that where I ended up? Like just in this more reddy, purpley zone? Orangey, yes. So you've got kind of like two dimensions you play with it, because you can increase the size of the color band and the base starting point of the color band. Try modulating the saturation over the space, maybe. Ooh. So this is interesting. It removes saturation the higher up it gets as well. Possibly a little bit intense. So that's gonna, that's gonna keep a little bit more color in there. Any moment now. Yep. I actually think that maybe we just need to boost this more. And you know up here before how I had that other sub, I pressed the wrong button, the other sub expression. Yeah, like this, basically. That was all ultimately of this expression. So put that back in. Hey, nice. I think that's like it seems to me like almost the logical endpoint of the system. Like this seems like the really good output from it, to me. It's really pleasant to look at. Now, there's other things that we can do, right? Because we've got this with translation call. We can also do a q/with rotation call, and that's going to take a rotation vector. So let's just imagine this is some, is it in radians or degrees? Some random number. What does this look like? Is there an error from this? No, but it did move it probably out of the way or something, right? Like, I think it also should have been like this. It would appear that this is not currently functioning. I'm not seeing anything now. Why not? There it is. So I actually just want to rotate the box a little bit, right? Like, I should do this second. That's why it's problematic. That's more like what I mean. Like, these boxes should be rotated when they are drawn in their space. Still doesn't like it, because I guess it's the rotation around what vector? But it's already there. It would appear I'm not the master of rotation. Q/rotate. What does that do? That's more like it, right? So if we rotate n, now it's going to give us some crazy output, not axis aligned anymore. So this might look like gibberish, or it might look cool. Oh, it looks pretty good too. What if this is like also modulated? This is the greatest shit ever. You just keep piling on parameters and then you just get surprised by it. Is that the latest? Ah, that's the latest now. Two by n. Come back to me. Oh no, that's better again, isn't it? Look at them all. The shapes go crazy. I think Shepherd's Pie is probably better than this if I had to weigh up the two options. This is pretty cool though. I can't tell a lie. I'm pretty happy with what we got to here. It's probably getting about that time to go and eat, isn't it? I've got to do some admin sort of work this afternoon, so we probably almost had enough of this. I'm gonna get a really nice one of these to generate. That's a cool one. And then the thing is, like, if we, well, now it's back at 32 by 32, we can probably drop this down and actually have a fairly nice render at 2048 maybe. That's running reasonably fast. I think we could go faster than 5 FPS at least, so it's 30 like now. It shouldn't be random what the rotation is. It should be times t instead. They'll make them spin with the clock, so I'm stupid. Sorry. Not random, just that. TN. What's that get you? Yeah, same diff, same diff. Too fast. 10 times slower. Smooth rotations, please. Oh, it's because those are random. I see. No. Yeah, these need to be times by something. What does that get us? Placing boxes that just keep randomly resizing. Yeah. And we can delete this, because that's like, there's no reason to have this part of the equation in there. So that image, I mean, it looks cool there, but it looks better in motion for sure. Nice. I mean, this is looking good. Capture a little video. I think the stream could hate me for trying to capture video while already streaming, but we'll see. Capture a few oscillations and iterations of it. We can probably make this even more interesting by introducing a Z modulated behavior too. Maybe a little extreme. Yeah, so the ones on top go crazier faster. That's cool. Just keep on mining for new looks. This is not. Yeah, maybe zoom in a bit. Well, yeah, get it like this for recording purposes, I think. In the middle of the screen. Nice. Done. So I think we've got quite a lot of good captures from today. Let's have a look through what we've saved. So, yes, cool. I mean, that one's better than this one, for sure. But there's some order in this one that's kind of pleasing. I like the chaos in this. Yeah, the chaos is really, really cool because it's all breaking apart down the bottom. This is also cool where you can almost feel the noise field through it. Yeah, like that one. See, by comparison, this is a pretty boring render, because like I think that the pillar sort of effect is way better than this like uniform landscape. This is so much cooler, right? And that this looks like it's an advert for the Figma app, but yeah. Like this doesn't actually look that cool by comparison, and even this doesn't look as cool by comparison. Now I've come so this far, but we've got all these pieces. I really like what we ended up, actually. I think we got to maybe the best version just about like here slash here, right? We're like, okay, yeah, nice. I think we... Cool, so I think I will go and just tweet some of these as a sample of the kind of stuff that we get to on stream, right? So we've got, let's make sure we pick a good subset. This one's cool. This one's very, very cool. Yeah, that one was nice too. I'm looking at these from the thumbnail point of view, right? Like, what actually looks good? I think this is my favorite one. Like the, yeah, the static. So, hang on a sec. Let's just quickly check. If I go to Twitch, excuse me, create a dashboard. Is that where I want? I want my stream manager. Yeah. Cool. I think I'm going to start winding down stream here because I'm going to just tweet this out, but I'm going to get some lunch now. It's been fun, but pretty productive. I think we got a nice outcome here. It's spoiled for choice in terms of what to actually share. We got a lot of results here. I might just do one initial tweet and then some follow-ups because you want people to like just jump in for attention. So if we do that, let's put this one at the first one. This is... Oh, how do you want to put it? I think a better name might be something like this system. Surprisingly divergent outcomes. So we want like, yeah, that one for sure. It's my favorite, I think. Then like, this one's cool too. Yeah. Then we also had a video that we were pretty happy with, didn't we? Is it this one? It was the one before. yeah, let's just tweet these two for now, I think. Pretty happy with this system for only a couple hours of hacking. Join me on the stream for the next one. Actually, no, better. Follow and Twitch so you don't miss the next one. This is Twitter Marketing 101. You just gotta always spam, promote everything all the time. It's great. Let's link my Twitter profile on Twitter. That's the way. Cool. Nice. Then we can prepare a quote tweet of this being like, awesome. Okay, I think I'm going to, well, I'm not going to hit tweet on this yet actually, but I'm going to take a little break, get some food, and then I'll probably do some work offline after that. So yeah, thank you to everyone who came hang out with me today, which is currently just you, Jake. I think you're the new person left, so cool. It was fun. Hope to see you at the next one. Enjoy your shepherd's pie, dude. I'm a little jealous. I'm not sure what I'm going to eat yet. Yeah. Peace.